Hey everybody, hope everyone's having a good night. We have a special treat tonight. We've got another vodcast going on. So we're not coming to you live this time, but we are immortalizing this run for all of you here tonight anyway. We've got zeronicks representing Amish Paradise, and excuse me if I mispronounce this a little bit, but Ralen Tankir representing Ups, da war es auch nicht. And this is a
You
wisdom
said
match.
that better
So
than
it's
I would have.
uh, I know their team name, but anyway, we've got a wisdom match, casual boots. With me is Kono Tyran, our restreamer,
Hello.
and tracking tonight is actually going to be zeronicks himself. He will be hopefully not spoiling the race in chat for everybody, because I have it on good authority that this was an exciting match. So
Yep.
I guess I could say what are we in for tonight, but
Just to be clear too, while this match did happen in the past, the commentary is live, so we will be being able to interact with chat along the way.
Yeah, we are seeing this for the first time all along with all of you.
Yeah. With this introduction aside, we can actually tell the runners to start because they go on our time in this particular section. So let's get those runners started up.
Yeah, so as I briefly mentioned, this was a wisdom matchup, casual boots seed. So our runners will be starting with the boots, the sword, and it will be a standard start. So basically all of the comfort items we can really afford to give runners at the start of a seed are in hand here. Looks like Ralen goes for the quick map check at the beginning here.
Yes, he does. Gives us knowledge that 2 of our 3 light roll dungeons stay will be required. With Tower of Hera, not, which is a little unfortunate considering how fast Tower of Hera is. It's really nice to see that be a crystal.
Yeah, any of the light world dungeons really, since, you know, being the introduction really to the game, they're notably shorter.
Our weapon today from Uncle being Boomerang. This is a interesting weapon.
Yeah,
to start with, it's
I don't think that in casual boots the uncle is guaranteed to give you a weapon.
Oh right, but casual boots.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise in standard, yeah, you usually will see the uncle giving you a weapon. With the assured sword start, though, that's no longer necessary, so they lift that restriction. So interesting, we see Ralen actually catching up here, removing that deficit from that map check earlier, and sort of back to parity, as it were.
Yeah, it's basic standard. There's not much you can do here to speed or slow this up. It's not like it's Enemizer or anything, so it's pretty fast.
Yeah, the only consideration would be if you wanted to, you know, be thorough in checking the prize packs for bombs, but in casual boots, since you can also bonk that wall in the back of Escape open, that's not really so big of an issue. You do like to see them before you hit Kakariko, but it's not a huge deal.
Not at all, not in casual boots.
And to answer the question of those who might just be joining us, the race is not live, but the commentary is. So this is a vodcast. This race has already happened, but we're sort of airing it for the public viewing, as it were. So we're seeing it for the first time here tonight, other than our tracker, who is one of the racers, who is seeing it for the second time, or half of it for the second time.
Yeah. And this race did happen on New Year's Day.
This is one of the inaugural races of the year. As we continue in through this, casual boot start, sort of one of the, I always like that particular part of a casual boots escape sequence, because it means that my right hand is free to take a sip of whatever beverage I have on hand at the time. Otherwise, it's usually busy holding down the dash button. But that's one of the few areas where you actually can't really speed it up with the boots, because the distances are just too short. I think the rule of thumb is generally if it's about 4 tiles, yeah.
Yep, 4
It's
tiles and you
faster
break
to
even.
dash, yeah. Or yeah, 4
Any
tiles and you
more,
break
it's
even.
faster.
Yeah. Any less than 4, however, and you lose time to dash. So
Yep.
it's a nice little rule of thumb to be aware of.
Pretty much in sync here.
Yeah, to be expected generally from a casual boot seed, unless one of the runners has a significant execution advantage. There's again, like you said, not much you can do to change how long this takes.
Oh, unless you forget you have boots. I swear I've never done that before.
Oh, nobody ever has. Nobody has ever.
No,
forgotten that.
no one would ever do that. Forget that you start with boots. $20 off Dark Cross.
Yeah, we're
They
doing
will
all
be
right
able
here
to
on money.
full clear this one. Yeah.
Yeah. 61 isn't. I mean, it's not great, but it's certainly comfortable.
61
I sort of,
means what? There is 20 easily
there's 30
accessible in Cackwell.
30 in Blind's Hut.
30?
30 in Blind's Hut.
Yeah.
2 5s in between the chests in Cackwell, and but regardless, we have enough to buy bombs if we didn't find them
we have
there,
enough to buy bombs, but oh, now with that 20, we definitely won't even need to. Well, they might still buy bombs depending on what they find, because
Yeah,
you still need one more to do CAC.
Yeah, I sort of
CAC
consider the minimum to be comfortable going into Kakariko is you want at least 50, because that covers you if you want to go and buy the bombs to do well, and Blind's Hut if you absolutely need to. You know, if you're incredibly unlucky with your drops, with your pickups, but we do find the hook shot, which is a nice little item to find early. So right off the bat here, Ralen decides to go over here and check the Bonk Rocks.
Probably forgot that that's available to him. Known to happen.
Yeah, although you can sort of take a gamble leaving it for later.
It's easy enough to route in at almost any time.
Yeah.
The
one issue is since it's available right off the bat, you don't want to leave something important in there. So zeronicks decides to check Lumberjack Cave. I am a huge fan of doing that in casual boots. I will sometimes skip it in non-boot start seeds because the boots is actually required to get the item after it is made available. So if you don't have the boots, it matters a lot less what the item is, since you'd need to find the boots to get it anyway.
Yep.
But if you start with the boots, then you know to keep it in the back of your mind, especially with the pickup of that Master Sword being one step of the way to Aga access.
There's still lots of things to check before you think about Aga, though, so it's still quite far away in the runner's minds at this point. But finding that bottle before CAC is very nice, because that's now you don't have to leave Sick Kid behind.
And more importantly, remember to come back to Sick Kid.
Yeah. Zero went to go bonk against those rocks there. I believe that's a 50-50 chance for a bomb drop. Didn't get it. Tempered Sword. That's
it's an
already
early Tempered Sword.
Very early Tempered Sword. With
it's 2 swords really, since we did start with the freebie, but still not too shabby.
And with this, they have plenty of money for both buying bombs and doing Bottle Merchant while they're here.
Yeah, so what I'm generally thinking about as I'm going through Kakariko, you know, sure, finding that sword, that's nice. Getting some money, I guess that's nice. But what you're really sort of looking for early on is some of those, you know, big progression items, you know, your Dark World access. Because that's sort of what's going to inform how you play out the rest of the seed after this sort of semi-scripted early section is done with. Again, Bombos, nice to see. It's relevant, but it doesn't change much right now. And honestly, neither does the hook shot.
Apparently that's a 100% drop. We didn't see it because he picked it up immediately. He's correcting me in chat about that. You may just notice that the runners are indeed in the chat here. That's perfectly fine. This game happened a few days ago, so they may be able to give us some insights during some cases of the seed when we have questions for them.
Speaking
nice.
of insights, Ralen, am I pronouncing that correctly? I would love to hear from the horse's mouth.
I believe you are. Ralen Tankir? I might be pronouncing that last bit wrong. I don't know. My
Regardless,
German pronunciation isn't super great.
We continue on through Kakariko and collect a whole bunch of 20 rupees. It's sort of slowly padding out the wallet here. Now, this area just south of the village.
Completely unhelpful in chat.
If the just south of the village here is one of the interesting spots here. You have the race game. I generally don't like to go and blind check it if I have the boots. We see it's the flute. Zeronicks going ahead and doing just that though. So getting a little bit of a lead here. Making up some time. You know, it's not a huge amount, but it's enough to put him in the lead.
That's the other item you like to see before you leave CAC, because now we might actually end up seeing them just go back up north and activate that before they leave.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much every checking CAC done. They don't need to come back here.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could make a case for, you know, Magic Bat, Smith.
I don't consider those Kakariko. That's off to the right. It's not the same. Those are more Dark World checks anyway.
But regardless,
both
we
runners
activate
simultaneously
activating
their flute.
And with the hook shot, especially, that's actually one of the items that makes the hook shot actually a lot more relevant, because it gives you logical access to the mountain and the mountain's right side, which has a veritable treasure trove of items.
Oh, that it does.
So I actually like this. This is kind of an unconventional route here from Nick. Going straight to desert, checking the ledge item, and doing Agina early. Agina
makes
is
sense
kind
when
of
you have both boots.
Yeah,
and the flute, because it's so easy to get over here, and then you can just go to the dam on your way.
It's kind of a slow check, and it's only one check. But because of that, it's a notorious last location.
Oh yeah.
Like if you're gonna last location something, it's one of the most likely spots that you're single spots. The other sort of being, you know, Ice Rod Cave to a lesser extent. Now, that's not going to be happening in this seed, since Ice Rod Cave is as accessible as it will ever be with boots and flute in hand.
Oh yeah. I always find it funny that you'll see Ice Rod Cave, which is more out of the way than Agina, be checked more often sooner than Agina will.
Yeah, Ice Rod Cave has a lot of extra utility, especially with these boot start seeds. It allows you to set up for a water walk, which gives you really quick access to some out of logic checks.
That only works if you have Pearl, though, but they don't have Pearl yet.
The water walk, the Pearl is required for the water walk setup from the fairy fountain, I believe. It could be that I've actually just never had a seed where I didn't have Pearl by that point, but I think you can set up the water walk with the boots in Ice Rod Cave without the Pearl. Correct me if I'm wrong,
I thought that you had to have the Pearl for water walk to work.
Well, I guess we'll see if Ralen goes for it here, because they certainly don't have the Pearl now.
No.
Yeah, it looks like he's setting up for it. So I'm pretty sure the Pearl is only required specifically for whatever reason for the setup in if you fake flipper into the waterfall.
Um,
Yeah, it is strange because the waterfall fairy has a you can fake flipper into it, but if you don't have the pearl when you come out, you are
yeah,
either dumped back
I
into
thought
the
that was for
water.
all water walks. I didn't realize that was just for the unique
Yeah.
circumstance here.
Because usually you need to exit and go back in. Yeah, and unfortunately, because of that, since Ralen doesn't have the pearl, the water walk isn't set up, and he can only get one of the items in there.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
Because
I've seen that happen
drops
once before.
the walk if you complete a heart container.
Yeah. I've seen runs before where both runners have gotten dunked, but they each opened up the other, like, a different check in there, so we knew both of them were heart pieces, but each runner didn't know what the other one was. It was great.
All right, so Zora just giving us a net loss of 480 rupees. Not
As
great,
he does.
but
As he does.
I mean, honestly, you never really care too much about that, to be perfectly honest, because that's the one thing you need a lot of money for. So, who cares how expensive it is? You don't need money for anything else after you've spent
Zero,
it there.
you can't do
really.
that. You don't have pearl. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, that's just
well,
that's just gonna
that
be
was
muscle
a
memory.
full heart container, so that's why it wouldn't have mattered how many heart pieces they had. It would have happened to both of them with that.
Yeah, so Ralen giving us a look over to the Eastern Palace area. It looks like Ralen is in the lead here, but Zeronick did take some time to go over to Desert. Not interested in the dungeon dip itself, though. Deciding to go up to the mountain, which I think makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, with with the Paradox Cave over there, there's so many more checks on the mountain than there are in Eastern Palace, because you're only guaranteed at least one check in Eastern Palace.
Yeah, you're guaranteed logical access to. Well, I suppose if you break logic, which most people would if they were doing an incomplete dive of Eastern Palace, is
Just
you only leave the boss item in there, but it's a fairly lengthy dive.
yeah. Meanwhile, get information that Swamp is our green pendant today, which is good, Swamp
Yeah,
is a relatively
it could mean no
long
logical
dungeon.
flippers. Well, never mind, Ice Palace. But since you can fake flipper to
Yeah.
Ice Palace, well, for one, it could be our other
Ice
pendant.
Palace could be a pendant still. Yeah, exactly.
But Swamp Palace is the only dungeon that hard requires the flippers.
Yep. Well, Zero navigating that dark cave, trying to go save that poor old man who I'm not sure how he got into the cave to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, the lore is that he's one of the descendants of the sages.
That doesn't explain how he got lost in the cave, though.
Oh, well, it's dark. His house is on the mountain. He went in the wrong door.
Why would he go in there?
He thought, okay, look at that. It looks just like his house. The frame's a little different, but anyway, we have Ralen picking up that 20 rupee. That's going to be either the boots or a sword, and there's the mitt, or the mitt, the single power glove. So that's going to be our next sort of important item.
It doesn't really do too much for us by itself. Without the book to get to Desert Palace, you can't beat the boss there. It does technically put Zora in logic now, but we already know it's nothing, so it doesn't really do much for us.
Yeah. So
until we get
check
another
here.
mitt or a hammer.
Yeah, one last check here on the mountain, Spiral Cave. And then I think we're really just looking at the Eastern Palace items. Right. The back of Escape is definitely unlocked with the mitts. However, this is casual boots, so we
Ooh.
did have that standard start.
But Pearl. So you can just still not have Dark World access. So we gotta have
Yeah,
something.
It's gonna be the hammer probably in Eastern Palace. That
Yep.
would be my and here Ralen is now going to check Agina, which Nick did earlier. Because you definitely want to clear non-dungeon checks before diving into a dungeon, generally speaking.
Yeah. At least a dungeon that you can't complete.
Yeah,
if you could complete it, I could see doing that first.
The other option here, as Chad points out, is Lamp could be an Eastern, which would logically allow us to climb up Aghanim's tower and go do all that nonsense.
That it would. Other options is it could be a book to give us access to Desert Palace. Few items it could be.
Yeah, either way, though, we're looking for something in Eastern.
Zero's going to be picking up his Moon Pearl. And then most likely heading over to Eastern, because he's already done the desert check there.
So, in terms of total time here, it looks like Ralen has been a little more time efficient. Having checked that Agina's cave, and Nick is still a little bit behind here. So Ralen ahead going into Eastern, gonna see what the I suppose 5 accessible chests are going to contain.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the hookshot is in hand, so we get to waste a little less time here on the right side.
Vanilla map. One of those checks that hookshot makes a little bit of a difference, but doesn't really lose much time if you don't have it either.
Yeah. It's more of a convenience thing. The flippers. Okay, so interestingly, that puts the other chest from Waterfall Fairy in logic.
That does. That's really the only thing it gives us. No. Well, did they do Hobo?
They did not do Hobo because they took the water walk straight to the waterfall.
They chose it makes sense. They chose the 2 checks over the one from Hobo.
If you have the Moon Pearl, you can do both of them by setting up the fake flipper from Hobo. But without the Moon Pearl, there's no way to check the Waterfall Fairy chests without the water walk setup, which you can't do from a fake flipper state without Moon Pearl.
It was just unfortunate that they got dunked and weren't able to check both checks.
Yeah. So Ralen going to the Vanilla Big Key chest to pick up the Vanilla Big Key. I don't think we saw that. And this is out of logic. The game does require... okay, so I was wrong. We did see the big key. I just wasn't paying attention. And we hook up the mail. That's, again, out of logic, but it's a nice sort of consolation prize. And is that all the items? No, no. Yes. Yes, it is, because we haven't seen the compass.
Here for the flippers.
That's on the boss.
We might be seeing Aghanim after this.
Yeah, it's well. See, the thing about Aghanim is it's really hard to commit to going there if you haven't found the lamp, because you know that the game has to give you the lamp in order to go do it. But I imagine if we see the lamp show up, at this point it would have to be on Hobo. That's gonna be their next move as soon as they see it. Because the real question is, how deep do you go just hoping for the the hammer to show up and bail you out? You know, even if you don't absolutely last location, you know, the lamp required to put it in logic. For example, if Nick here goes and does hobo right away, if it were me, I wouldn't even bother checking that other chest in waterfall, because all you're hoping it would be the hammer at that point. And
yeah. And there's our lamp.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. Yeah, one of the things I think that's actually it can make a really big difference in races like these is sort of being able to read when the Aga seed is sort of in play, because it's not really a numbers game. It's sort of you do have to kind of feel it out, but for a while this has sort of been feeling like an Aga seed, because I don't know what it is, but there's something that's a little different about them just in terms of, you know, what becomes accessible to you. You know, if you have access to Paradox Cave and it has almost nothing in it, you know.
Meanwhile, Zero doesn't agree with you, and he says, "No, I'm still gonna go check Waterfall."
Yeah, I mean that's. I just like to go to Aga early, because I like to bank on the fact that you have to do it anyway, save the time.
It's a gamble.
Yeah, it is a gamble,
and it's a gamble that
like
can pay off if you are right.
Because, see, the way I see it is you can always do it later, and it only burns you if it's one very specific item. It's kind of different from checking a location, like leaving a location, right? You know, leaving a Waterfall Ferry for later on is one thing, but leaving it for later on when you only could possibly want the hammer from it right now, it's not nearly as big of a risk. If you get what I'm poorly trying to
could have been a glove here. That would have given you as well. Could have been a hammer or glove.
Hammer or glove. But again, if you need a specific item for a specific purpose, not just general progression, that gives you something else to check. Because those long chains of logic are less sort of not necessarily less common, but it's not as great of a move to sort of bank on them. So if it's starting to look like an Aga seed, especially if lamp shows up, that's kind of the hardest position to be in, right? When you don't have the lamp, but it's still starting to look like an Aga seed. You know that Aga is not going to be in logic until the lamp shows up. But usually when you're in that position, when the lamp shows up, you know 100% it's going to be an Aga seed, because what are the chances that Aga is going to be put in logic? And, oh, by the way, here's Dark World access, you know? In my opinion, I like to just bite the bullet, get it over with, hope my opponent wastes time hoping it's not going to be an Aga seed and gets disappointed, and I just go and pick up whatever they cleared out later at my own convenience.
I've seen the dice roll both sides. I've seen someone go to Aga early and the other person find Dark World access and skip Aga entirely. But you know, it's a gamble either way.
I've won a number of races actually where I did Aga and it wasn't hard required, but I still end up winning the race just because of the route it ended up, you know, leading me through. So you know, anything can happen. People like to think about it like it's a huge time sink, but I mean, especially in this case, you know, when you have the tempered sword, it's pretty quick, honestly. So it's better to sort of keep your
blue ball,
keep your eyes facing forward, and not think about how much time you wasted doing Aga, but just think about, okay, how can I keep moving forward in the seed? If Aga's one way to do that, you just make the choice and ride or die. Yeah, so not the nicest Aga fight in the world.
Ooh, what is that? The fourth blue ball there? There we go. Ralen will be giving us a quick pyramid ledge check. Just some bombs. Goodbye, bombs. Looks like Ralen is choosing to go directly to Catfish here. While you're here, there really isn't a better time to do it. Especially because all of the waterfall and Zora area has already been checked. It's such an out of the way, and you're here right now, so 5-6 crystals on both Mire and Pod, and I missed where our last pendant was.
Yeah, Skullwoods, was that it?
Skullwoods, we're being told by the runner.
Yeah, so Catfish with the fire rod, definitely something we wanted to see right now.
Oh yes, especially with Turtle Rock being the crystal, that is.
Or we would have if Skullwoods hadn't been our other pendant. It would have been a really, really great time to see it, but we're happy to find it nonetheless. Because that's an item you really can
found though.
That's one of the worst items to orphan at Catfish, because you can, especially with Bombos in hand, you can do a whole lot of the rest of the seed without Fire Rod, without ever having to come back here for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Mitts on Catfish, for example, wouldn't be nearly as bad because there's a lot more that you can't do without Mitts than without Fire Rod.
That Hinox trolling Ralen a little bit there. Not falling for it though, and not getting hit. Oh. Looks like Zero is opting to do the same thing and check Catfish right away. Yes, he is. This will be good that he doesn't abandon this check, because he will be needing that.
With this item layout, it really does make sense to do this. You know, you don't have the mirror. You don't really have an immediate reason to think, okay, you know, route it in with the North Dark World. It's about as fast as it's ever gonna get. It takes a while to get here regardless, so you may as well just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Before heading over to the
Lumberjack Ledge was only a heart container, so they're not going to be going back for that. You know, we'll see if Zero chooses to continue or maybe dip Pod. I don't feel like he would dip Pod, but it is a possibility.
Yeah, I think in this situation you really just go around you know, counterclockwise the entire Dark World. Because the big treasure trove in the Dark World Overworld checks is Hype Cave. With the Dark World access that these runners have, you have to go all the way around to get it.
It's a very long and out-of-the-way check indeed.
Yeah, and if Hammer is there, you want to get that sooner rather than later, and certainly before dipping Pod. So you may as well take this loop, clear Skull Woods or Thieves Town if you have to, and can if you had the Fire Rod. Then and then just continue on through Hype Cave.
Interesting choice on Ralen's side to come back here when it's a pendant.
I kind of get it though. Given that the Fire Rod did show up, even though it's a pendant, you never know if there are two items in Skull Woods, and both of them can be here in the back. And if you have the Fire Rod when you come in, it's you know, you could take that as a hint. There are never really hints that you can get from items showing up, only suggestions. But you know, if this gamble pays off and you get an item here, hey, you made off with a pretty good investment for your time.
That Mothula refusing to get away from those spikes hasn't taken a hit of damage yet. There we go. Okay. Oh. Just the map. Meanwhile, Zero chooses not to go to Skullwoods and go straight into Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, I think Zero dipped the front of Skullwoods at the very least. I wasn't paying super close attention. I did see him in there though. And I feel in this situation, yeah, you most likely are going to see runners do the front of Skullwoods just because it's quick, easily accessible. You could get some items there. And you don't want to leave all of it. It's very easy for the randomizer algorithm to put a really good item in the front of Skullwoods. So
Apparently,
you want
we're
to
in
get
the front of Skullwoods, and we completely missed it.
Yeah, we were too busy talking about Ralen's big brain of doing the back first when the real play was to do the front first. But the other thing too now is Ralen has one pendant in hand. If this suddenly becomes a ped seed, because you never know when that could happen, already having one can be a really huge leg up.
Yeah, but it's also the pendant that is probably the best location, because if it does become a ped seed, it's very easy to check.
Yeah,
Get this on your way there.
The other sort of part of that story being, if it starts looking like a ped seed, Ralen would sort of be in a position to take advantage of it sooner. Thinking, oh, hey, I already have a pendant. If you get the book, since you already have one pendant, maybe you check the ped. Whereas Nick might not make that decision, not having the pendant. It's all very situational, but it's a consideration to make. So Ralen finds the other item in the front of Skullwoods, which was a full heart container, and has to wait a mighty long time for that Wallmaster to ferry him back to the entrance.
These towns so far hasn't been showing us much. Oh, I missed that on Zero's side.
Yeah, so notably, we noticed that Zero doesn't have a small key right now, and that means that the possibility is still open for the small key to be in the big chest, which is something that you definitely like to see going into Thieves Town without the hammer. Can't open the big chest without the hammer, so you'd love for it to be guaranteed nothing.
Oh yeah, we'll find out once we get down to Maiden Cell if that will indeed be the case or not. You can also find out here if it's here.
Yeah, I do believe we also saw Ether in the front of Skullwoods. So we do have 2 medallions, which is nice. No, it's not the full complement, but
wasn't it gloves and a heart piece?
The gloves and a heart piece were in Skullwoods. Front of Thieves Town had Ether, I believe.
Oh, Thieves Town. Okay, you said Skullwoods.
Well, that's because they're roughly in the same location. What do you mean? People never say things they don't mean. Meanwhile, dig game happening here.
Oof.
Fairly standard routing here. You like to do dig game when you can, because you can't do it as part of Smith Chain. We have a lot of money right now, which is, too bad considering we've already checked Zora. We don't really need it anymore.
Well, we need a little bit for pod, and having possible potions as well is not terrible.
Yeah, notably, Ralen hasn't gone into Thieves Town yet. Decided to double down on the overworld checks. Personally, I'm in Zero's camp here. I would completely do Thieves Town here.
Oh yeah, it's a completable dungeon and it's a crystal, so there's really not too much to skipping it now. Ralen's gonna have to go back there eventually when he gets in this frog, but
I imagine the thinking is come back when you have hammer and can full clear it. I've seen a lot of runners that have a deathly fear of doing Thieves' Fountain without hammer. Because you get burned one too many times, you decide I'm not doing that again.
Luckily for Zero, the small key does indeed lock itself in that dungeon chest there, so we won't be needing that today.
Yeah, and that possibility is why I sort of don't think it's always such a good idea to really avoid it that hard. It's not a terrible gamble to make that doing Thieves' Town without the hammer. When it hurts bad, but it's not as likely as some people might sort of feel it is. Confirmation bias is pretty strong with that dungeon in particular. But Ralen finds at the very last check of Hype Cave the bow. So that puts the Eastern Palace clear in logic. But I imagine we're not going to see that just yet because I do think we found all 3 items in there.
Yeah. Also allows us to full clear pod, which is nice. Oh, no. Hammer, never mind. It lets us clear the front of pod.
Yeah. And that's kind of a rough spot to be in because you can really do a lot of checks in pod, but since it's a crystal, you'd really like to complete it in one go. You'd also love to have the mirror at the same time, so you can A, clear pod faster, and B, go right over and do Eastern right afterwards. Yeah, and Ralen going here and blind checking Lumberjack. Ralen did not check this earlier.
Oh, he didn't pick it. Ah, okay.
Yeah, Ralen went and did Bonk Rocks instead.
Just a boss heart container, which is nice. Yep, just a boss heart container.
Yeah, and I mean the time spent going down here and picking it up is time wasted, you could say, but the way he's routing it in is actually pretty nice. It's generally good in rando if you just keep moving. If you waste too much time thinking about what you should or shouldn't do, that's more time waste than you're gonna get doing something you don't need to. Just keep doing checks, just keep getting it done. And with the amount of hearts they have, it's certainly not an unwelcome sight to find that boss heart container. Yep, and I like this now coming out from Ralen is
and Zero.
It'd be nice if he had the mirror, because then he could do Mire Shed into desert, but
I mean, it's a full clearable desert palace over a not clearable pod at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
this makes
just
sense.
like the idea of going and checking Mire Shed too. It feels like a missed opportunity. But
it's not that big though. I mean, there's a flute spot right there, so this is never that far away.
No, yeah, it's not bad, but it's just one of those things, it's like almost within reach. I guess it was almost perfect, but not quite.
Saying that at this point he was fully prepared for a mirror in GT, so that's why he didn't bother to wait for it.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, Swamp Palace is the only
dungeon that hard requires the mirror is a pendant.
And that's something that you definitely want to consider, when routing things in could become more convenient later on, but again, knowing that the mirror isn't necessarily hard required by the seed, you don't want to hold out for mirror to show up.
Yeah, if you hold out too long for some checks, then you're just going to get burned when that check doesn't come around. And there was something required in those checks that mirror made slightly more convenient. The mirror. So far, though, desert not giving us anything good.
It'll give us a crystal at the end, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
And with Tempered Sword and bow and arrows, the only thing that can make this faster is silvers. And Fire Rod, you have everything you want for this boss, really.
So the question here, I guess, is without the mirror, you can't check Checkerboard Cave. But after this, do you still go and full clear Mire? Or do you go do something else and come back maybe if you have the mirror? Because what else can we even do here?
Go Moeding Mire is much faster than not Go Moeding Mire, pending big key placement. So I could see just checking Mire Shed, figuring out what pendant it is, and then leaving, and hoping to come back with a more knowledgeable
yeah, I would expect it more from zeronicks than from Ralen, given that Nick found the Ether Medallion in Thieves Town, which Ralen hasn't been to yet.
Yeah.
And there's our second item, just some bombs, but you know, that's all right.
Zeronicks looking like he has a slightly faster time at that fight. Got some good Fire Rod shots off, and the Fire Rod does quite a bit of damage to these guys.
Yeah, a Fire Rod is, I think, the same as a Tempered Sword Spin.
Yeah, and it only takes, I think, what, two Fire Rod shots per?
Two per mola.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks like Ralen is going here too. I still do like this, because you know, even if you don't have the medallion, in which Ralen does not.
Indeed either.
You still get to check Mire Shed, which is an easy location. I always think of it in terms of where the randomizer algorithm allows itself to place items, and these locations that aren't really locked by anything once you have access to them, it's they're a lot more likely to have something that you're really gonna like seeing. I don't know all of the ins and outs of the minutiae of how it's programmed, but Mire Shed is oftentimes a very lucrative check. It's almost like the front of Skullwoods, in it where it almost seems disproportionate.
Now, Zero looks like he's opted to actually go in.
I would. It's full clearable.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just so much faster later on, and it's not that far out of the way with the loot spot being there.
Yeah, I mean, I still like clearing it because there are two items in here. They could be something you need, and again, if you can do checks while also doing something, spending time you have to spend anyway, you know, it could not be a huge time loss. It could be, but I don't know. I like there's something to be said for keeping momentum going. I kind of like keeping the momentum of just continuing to clear dungeons going. It sort of it gets the wind behind your sails a little bit.
Meanwhile, Ralen up here on the top of the mountain.
Are we gonna need Quake? We are not. We have all the medallions we need. And actually, once the hammer shows up, we are in position to potentially be able to clear Turtle Rock, because the Ice Rod could, in fact, be in there.
It could, but it could equally likely be literally anywhere else but GT.
Yeah, but it's something to consider, not necessarily to keep in mind, but to consider. It is possible that once hammer shows up, you know, once you're in Ice Rod hunt mode, the correct play could very well be just go straight to Turtle Rock, which, you know, nobody's gonna do. Certainly not in a 1v1. Now, you know, in a larger pool scenario, you know, you've got like a big async or something. One person might decide, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. That's when you'll see those kind of plays come out. But in a 1v1 format, it's too risky. You got to play a little bit safer.
They're opting to save cutscene chest for later. This makes sense. It's slow. No one
Yeah.
likes it.
This is generally the kind of route you see. You go in, you check that top fire-locked chest. If it is a small key, then you know that the cutscene chest has to be the big key. If it's not a small key, then you go out and check that other chest. Sometimes you'll see people go all the way to the right and check that last small chest first. And then just do cutscene chest last. But this doesn't make too little sense in a full clear scenario either.
Ralen is letting us know at this point that he was cursing to himself after finding that ether.
Yeah. Again, you know, it's nice to be able to do a dungeon when you can. Because, you know, a full clear of Mire is pretty slow, and a God Mire is pretty fast. But a dungeon clear is a dungeon clear. Having to retrace your steps is not only inefficient, but it's, you know, it's bad for morale. Yeah, so this chest that zeronicks is gonna open up here is the one that I will usually check before cutscene chest. Just because if you do end up finding an item or the big key here,
Bird toss.
And there we go. There's the 2 items. So nothing important in here, and a full clear, which is kind of slow, but
very, very slow. But you know, not like we're going for speed or anything here.
It's not like it's vanilla Ice Palace.
Oh.
Which, incidentally, I think wouldn't be necessarily the worst. Oh, it would be the worst play to me, because I always forget that you need hammer for Ice Palace. Yeah. But
yeah, right.
If
you
hammer
don't need it until the very last. I mean, it's like pod, you know, but you don't typically forget about pod needing the hammer because there's a space in the dungeon where it makes it faster. Whereas Ice Palace, there are no hammer. Never mind, there's one.
Yeah, there is in the vanilla routing. If you have the Cane of Samaria, you can bypass all of it, almost all of it.
No, you still need.
You do need it for one of the chests.
Yeah,
but if you don't have the Cane of Samaria, you need it for 2, because you need to go through that area, quote unquote, backwards. It's not actually backwards; it's frontwards, but everybody does Icebreaker these days, so that's what feels forwards to everybody now. So, Ralen could make up some time here by opting to skip cutscene chest. It was just the compass. Doesn't need that. Tells him where the boss is, but he knows where the boss is. Everybody knows where the boss is.
I hope they know where the boss is. This isn't Doors. We're not searching.
And Ralen can't be too careless here. You know, one more tick of damage from an environmental hazard. That's that last heart gone. I don't believe we have any fairies and bottles here. As zeronicks enters the boss fight here. Pretty low health. The blue mail helps a little bit, but yeah, it was a close call. Yeah, you definitely a lot of the time when you do this tempered sword fight, you'll see runners go up and do spin slashes right up in front of the eyes. Intentionally take damage from the
goo.
The poison goo or whatever it's supposed to be. The vitreous humor, I suppose I'll call it.
Mucus. I've heard it called lots of different things.
Either way, since that's an environmental hazard, it deals 1 heart of damage regardless of mail. So if you're at, for example, green mail or blue mail, more often you'll see it with green mail. But in a low heart scenario, it's a lot better to take damage from that, use the eye frames to avoid damage from the eyeballs, which do a lot of damage on contact. But then you save the arrows for the big eye, and 8 of them take him down, and that's another crystal.
But Ralen does finish clearing out the front, and is now going to the back.
Yeah, interestingly,
Still on 2 hearts.
Ralen still didn't clear Thieves Town. Just did the front, took
No.
that Ether Medallion, and went out here. Again, the thought process has to be you want the hammer. You don't want to do Thieves Town without the hammer. I think almost more than any other check I've seen in this game is once bitten, twice shy with runners with that one. It doesn't feel like a big deal to me, but I've never been bitten hard by it. So, and I know that those things can really haunt any runner, really.
Ralen did successfully set up Spooky, and gets it there. And there. Gotta love to see that.
Yeah, Spooky being a glitch, referring to spooky action from a distance, a quantum mechanical phenomenon. Basically, it misplaces the fire hitbox to the top of the screen based on the position of the bird when it leaves the screen or enters the screen, or something like that. Basically, enables you to activate the switches without room transitioning or moving. You have to sort of place yourself. Yeah, you set it up automatically. You just have to avoid doing certain things.
Yep. The way to set it up is actually you want to stand below the... When you shoot in, you want to stand below the little rock that you have to pick up as the bird flies off the screen, and that sets it up.
Yeah, I think it's...
and then whenever
you
use
scrolling the screen up before you warp, I think.
Yeah, then when you use the Cane of Samaria, it will unset it unless you dust with the boots first. So you hit the boots button to make little dust particles, and that stops it from unsetting for some reason. Magic.
Yeah,
who knows?
I mean, it's
spooky.
It's all going to be RAM manipulation. Nick, meanwhile, relevantly, to get back to the actual race at hand, Nick is heading into pod here, making the decision to dip it without the hammer.
There's a lot of checks here.
Yeah, a lot of
Don't
checks.
hate it.
Yeah, you could say it's risky, but at this point, what else are we looking at? We need to find the hammer. The chances that it's in pod are good enough that even if it doesn't show up, the dive is almost kind of worth it. So,
yeah, it's not
other things
that
can show up too.
Slow. It's really not that slow. Even if you do have to come back later, being able to walk up the center to get to the spot where you have to go back to the boss, still pretty quick. So you're not losing much time if you do have to double dip pod.
Yeah, the big thing that hurts is not having mirror, but we're actually low enough on hearts that even having blue mail doesn't make a death warp too inconvenient. That's one of the things that really hurts is when you've got red mail early and you've got a lot of hearts and you still haven't gotten the mirror yet. That's when you really start to feel like death warps are such a drag. But this is actually better than usual shape, I would say, for death warps to be kind of nice, honestly.
You did a nice dash there up that hallway. As Ralen does decide to go back into Thieves and finish clearing it out.
Yeah, and this is one of the things where trying to avoid stuff like this really can bite you. Again, it's not large chunks of time that Ralen's losing to this. It's just little bits here and there over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing with Misery Mire. Sure, you could save a lot of time if you get to go mode it, but if you don't get to go mode it, then rather if you had to do it early, then you may as well do it right now and not lose the little bit of time it would take to go back to it. Even if it's a small bit of time you'd be losing, you still want to make sure you lose as little time as possible. And Ralen is about to find out now that the hammer wasn't even required in the first place, so there was very little reason to not full clear this on the first trip through, which is always a little bit frustrating when you are trying to, if you're trying to be cognizant of something like that, it's always kind of a drag to finally beat it on your third time to the village and realize it was all for nothing, but. Meanwhile, not much showing up in Palace of Darkness here. Zeronicks setting up for the Hammer Yump.
1 pixel down. Come on. There you go. Oh, nope. Too many. There you go. Ralen once again in chat showing his displeasure for his putting off something that he could have done sooner. But we'll have a very easy time on this blind fight. As, in case you didn't know, it is scripted fight.
It's not scripted when I do it because I prefer the challenge. I don't rob myself of gameplay. I actually think it's an objectively fun fight.
It is. It is definitely an interesting fight.
Just you
Stays
get
on
those
script,
Neo
takes him
moments.
down fast.
Yeah, staying on script is certainly efficient, but is it stylish? That's my philosophical question that I'd like to pose.
I think it's pretty stylish to beat him.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
it is
as
stylish.
fast as possible. Like even
Ice
the
Rod.
task can't beat
Ice
that boss
Rod.
faster.
Nick found the Ice
Oh.
Rod in harmless Hellway. So right at the last second, Pod paying off.
Yeah, that quite literally the last check you could have done. But this
So
puts all of Turtle Rock in logic now.
We still need the hammer though to access it. That's sort of the sticking point here. And really, it's not that big, all things considered, because when with the hammer not, it might be here in Purple Chest. It's because Ralen already did Dark Death Mountain here. It really doesn't make that much difference that the Ice Rod was picked up, because at this point, you don't really need to do anything else before after Turtle Rock, really. There's no reason to go into Turtle Rock anytime other than right before GT. So the Ice Rod is nice to find, but it's a nice reward for the time investment of dipping Pod, I guess, is one way to put it. So yeah, it can't lock the hammer, because hammer is required to get into Turtle Rock. The Ice Rod is literally only useful there. Turtle Rock isn't our 5/6. And once we have access to TR, we don't need anything else. We don't need Quake. We don't need... I guess the game logic requires that we have silvers for the Ganon fight, but we both know that neither of these runners are going to require those silvers.
Silvers are a luxury that is not needed.
Yeah, honestly, this is sort of the maximum amount of equipment I would consider myself to need under any circumstances. Blue Mail Tempered is perfectly acceptable for any seed. Any less than that is
like
workable.
2-3 hearts would be nice, but yeah.
Yeah, our health is rather low. But other than that, it's not very big. So,
nope.
What are we... I imagine...
Ice Palace.
Yeah, it's really got to be in Ice Palace. Which is, again,
there's
you need the hammer to do that dungeon. About the worst thing to show up would probably be Mirror in Ice Palace. I've got a sneaking suspicion that's what we're going to see. Because the hammer is logically required for so many of those chests in Ice Palace, that the chances that the hammer is what we find in there is... I mean, it feels kind of slim. It may not be. It could just be how I feel. But in the end, that's really what Rando is all about. It's a game about feelings. It's a game about emotions. It's a game about opening chests.
I might say the opening chest was the first thing it's about.
Well, in no particular order. But yeah, Nick is diving down into Ice Palace. It's really the only place left to look. I don't think we've seen Smith Chain from Nick here.
We have not from Nick, no, but we have seen in the entire thing.
We saw it from Ralen, but not Nick. And
it's
again, I
slow
sort of
without
like
the mirror. And
I like this dungeon. There it is. There's the hammer. See, and that's sort of the reason that people so often tout the advice ABCD, always be clearing dungeons, because you know, it's
you need to do
It's
them anyway.
maximizing that best case scenario.
Yeah. And that is indeed go mode for Zero. He has everything he needs.
Yeah, and it's really easy to forget in Rando that even in the vanilla game, you don't have all of the items required to clear almost any dungeon by the time you walk in the door. I think the only exceptions to that are
Thieves' Town?
Turtle Rock, Thieves Town, and Tower of Hera.
Yeah, Thieves' Town is one of those that you can.
I actually didn't know until I started playing Rando that you didn't need the mitts to lift up that block.
You don't even need to lift up that block.
Right, you don't need to. But I thought that that block was required mitts to pick up because you get the mitts and then you go back that way. But child me never tried to pick up that block before.
Pretty sure a lot of people didn't.
I almost wonder if maybe that's something that they changed in the Game Boy Advance port, because that's the one that I played as a kid. And there are definitely a lot of things I totally thought were true that aren't. It really threw me off that they added a flute spot in the Game Boy Advance version.
Oh, really?
Really, I think so. I think there was one on Turtle Rock. And it really threw me off it not being there. Yeah, I also recently found out that that's why I call them golden bees.
From what I was told, it was called Golden Bee in the Japan version, and they mistranslated it in the English version, and then they fixed it in the Game Boy Advance.
That came up on the stream last night that I was commentating, and I think I was finally resolved that question. Yeah, I think you were restreaming, or maybe you were just in chat. I don't know. Either way, Nick is on his way through Ice Palace. Kind of the most comfortable place to find that hammer. It's sort of what led on this tangent is the fact that first chest is very accessible as soon as you can enter the palace.
Oh yes, doesn't really require anything other than that fire source to get past the freezers.
Yeah, and it's kind of easy to forget that, worst case scenario, that's actually, if zeronicks was going to commit to a deeper dive here, the worst case scenario would be if that wasn't something he needed, because then he'd need to consider whether or not he really had to go all the way down to freezer chest, because that's the next chest that is logically available without the hammer. And it still would be a little faster than otherwise with the icebreaker, but it certainly would be really nice to be able to just commit one chest deep. Same thing can happen with Turtle Rock. If you don't have the fire rod, you can still check the one chest on the left, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. The Puff's getting a little away from Zero there, but still takes him out relatively quickly.
Oh, and Red Mail. Never mind, they're good with the amount of health they have now.
Yeah. Certainly a nice thing to see, because you're gonna be wanting to avoid a lot of checks, and a lot of those are going to contain those heart containers we haven't been seeing.
Meanwhile, Ralen over here actually did last location the ice rod pretty much. Well, not quite. It could have been in Ice Palace, but he's checked everything else. So, unlike Zero, who hasn't done the Smith Chain or other stuff yet, this is the last thing that Ralen can do.
But yeah, that hammer location is pretty. I mean, you'd like to say it's awful, right? But I mean, after a while, you learn to give a side eye to that chest. It's one of many chests that you sort of side eye.
Awful hammer placement is the first check in Swamp Palace. That's awful.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those chests too that enough times you see an item that is just really nice to be there. I've seen Samaria there. I've seen it actually was one of the catalysts for when I decided to finally learn my Dark Rooms was a seed where that was where the lamp was in the first chest of Pendant Ice, and I lost by a fairly decent margin because my opponent didn't need to find that, and I kind of wanted to. And after that, I was like, you know what? It's probably not that hard to do dark rooms in the dark.
There's only a few that are really bad. Aga.
Yeah.
This is pretty not fun.
Aga low percent is pretty bad. Usually, and low percent is usually the only time you ever are in a position to do Aga in the dark.
Typically,
Misery Mire can be rough. Misery Mire is especially rough because it's kind of hard to make a consistent strat for it. But it's
there's not much there that's gonna hurt you too much.
Yeah, it's really if you lose where the where your placement of the switch is, you really have to understand where the block is going to be placed relative to where you're standing. It's kind of hard to place. And if you have
Fire Shield, it becomes a lot easier because you can just face right, back up into that corner, then just kind of walk down and let your shield block all of the fire there if you need it to. So.
So trying to think of what the
going down real quick.
Optimal routing for this would have been. It would have been a pretty crazy to see the instant dip into Ice Palace, pick up that hammer and just like single dip everything else. Really, our only double dip here has been pod for the ice rod, but I don't think you really see anybody doing that. Ice Palace is the last thing that anybody is going to go into, and there are a lot of things that somebody would probably choose to check before diving Ice Palace without the hammer. I think the one thing you'd expect sort of everybody to do would be Dark Death Mountain. Smiths you could leave as Nick did.
Yeah. Ice Palace is one of those, it's slow. And it's not made faster by go mode, it's still just as slow, even if you're go moding it.
Yeah,
so people try to not double dip that dungeon, because that's just a lot of time waste.
Ooh, Nick here kind of makes a tactical error by not sort of taking the warp first, and sort of has the travel time to both dungeons. I think you overall definitely save time to go here first and then mirror to do Eastern. But still, I think ahead overall.
Probably only losing about.
Oh yeah, no mirror.
50 seconds.
You can't do that. It's still faster to do that though, Nick.
Never mind then.
Can't argue that.
Nope.
It's not a tactical error anymore, but I'm still not wrong about it being faster.
As Ralen did say,
I'll take what I can get.
He's completely ready for mirror in GT at this point.
I mean, who needs the mirror, really?
Runners in shadow, no.
Oh, what are you afraid of? You know, Silver's in Mimic Cave.
Just like to thank once more our tracker, zeronicks, for tracking his own race. He's doing great. For those not aware, this is a vodcast, so this match was done on the 1st. Perfectly fine for the runners to be here. They did this a few days ago.
So yeah, despite the definite lead here that zeronicks has, it's still going to be a very close race by the looks of it. Definitely within arm's reach of GT routing differences. Because you know Ralen is about to pick up the pod crystal here. He's gonna have Eastern right afterwards, which isn't a huge amount of time. And then you know just TR and GT, and they're kind of they're really only a minute, a couple minutes apart. Not a minute or two. That's a little low, but definitely within a couple minutes.
Yeah, overall, Raylan's usage of his chime and checks has been a little bit better than Zero's. But Zero just kind of made the right ones a little bit faster.
Yeah, and I mean,
So,
I don't even necessarily like to say it that way. I mean, it's Zeronicks has been more efficient with the number of checks he made. And Ralen's has been really efficient with how he's made the checks.
yeah. Both runners doing an amazing job.
Yeah, and
Like,
that's
they're
sort of
both
one of
doing
the
really
questions. One of the questions you constantly have to ask yourself when you're sort of routing your seed. It's like, which do I prioritize? Do I try to get as many checks as I can in, or do I try to get the biggest possible time save by, you know, doing stuff when I can, trying to make
And those are
the
often
right
not
gamble.
the same thing to do.
Right. It's the element of luck, but you sort of play your own luck. It's not just spinning a wheel. You have a lot of agency over how it happens. You don't control what happens, but you sort of control how. And sometimes sometimes it's really the right play to just go for that check density, because if you don't, you skip something important. So it looks like Ralen is probably going to be finishing up Eastern Palace a little bit behind Nick's entry into Turtle Rock here.
Yeah. We'll try to keep note of the time standard, see exactly how far behind Raylan is. But I don't imagine it's more than a minute and a half. Ooh. Missed the second hit on that Igor. Grabbing those extra arrows.
All right, so we're gonna go 1:16:44 for agency in Turtle Rock. So now Ralen has to climb up the mountain and actually make it into Turtle Rock. He's gonna have to jump through all the same hoops. The dungeon still isn't open.
A long climb. It takes a while.
Ralen is actually using a little bit of a hook speed there. I don't think we saw Nick do that, so it's a little bit of time made up.
A little bit.
Just past the 1 minute behind mark.
Oof.
Looks like it's going to be probably within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if in my experience, if a race is within 2 minutes, it's a close race. You know, that's if at the end you lose by 2 minutes, you're not upset. I mean, maybe you are.
This can still be made the difference by GT routing as well.
Exactly.
So, like, it's
from a spectator's perspective, that's very exciting.
Oop. And hook speed not really helping. Oh no! Zero.
Yeah,
he took
one of those things.
He took a hug.
Definitely can make a difference here.
Oh dear. That
big chunk of that 2 minutes eaten up by those chain chomps.
Looks like yeah, we just passed 2 minutes here. We got about 2 minutes and 8 seconds difference between when they entered, but then Zero took that fall, so that's probably ate up a good 30 seconds or so of that. Those chain chomps hurt. Even in red mail, they hurt. And we are still not super high on health. Oh. Oh. Just use your cape. Oh, never mind. No, wait. Never mind. We don't have cape or blue mail. We have no invulnerability items. Use your safety items that you don't have.
Just use the mirror. So yeah, that lead is becoming a little bit slimmer here. We'll see how if Ralen can blast through that chain chomps room with a nice set strat. That's gonna be good news going forward into this dungeon, because even though Nick didn't die a second time, it's still some time missing.
Oh yeah, Big Key being on its vanilla location there in Lava Chest.
Yeah, and by the time you get to that point, you know if it's going to be there or not, because that is the last chest you can check before you need the big key to check anything else. So if you haven't seen it by that point,
kind of convenient, actually.
Yeah, it makes the go mode of this dungeon a little uninteresting, but definitely nice and predictable. If you've already seen the big key by that point, you steal the key from the pokey and just keep going, because you don't need whatever's in that chest. And if you haven't seen the big key, it's the big key and you need it. Yeah, this is a very interesting seed in terms of health.
It also makes it a little nicer when it is, because at this point you're not going to get accidentally locked out back here by a big key being on both that lava chest and the big chest. And not on Laser Bridge. I think that happened before.
Yeah, but the health situation in this seed is actually really kind of interesting, because red mail is nice and all, but a lot of these hazards you still take 1 heart of damage to regardless of your health, and when you've only got 7 to spare, that's actually a lot more impactful than you're sometimes used to.
Oh yeah, no. Most stage hazards, they actually don't care about what mail you have.
Yeah, like for example, that maze. Most of the time, you're happy to just take a hit there, but Nick deciding to use the iframes from the hook shot to sort of mitigate some of the damage, because you might need that health. He's gonna need it to open some of these chests on Turtle Rock. No mirror shield, no invincibility.
That was silvers on the big chest that Ralen just picked up.
Yeah, so Nick skipped that one.
That's I think a time save on his point. I think the time spent
definitely
picking those up was less than the time he's gonna spend not spinning Ganon to death.
Yeah, and I mean not to discredit our runners at all. That sort of thing makes a lot less difference at the very, very top tiers of play. But at this level, this is the open league. It's not a given that all of the Ganon fights are going to be optimal. So Ralen can probably count on Nick to maybe not get that silverless absolutely perfect, and having the silvers just makes it a very, very easy fight. Ralen also saved some time by checking top down, finding that small key in the second spot, and already that we'll compare the dungeon clear to the dungeon entrance. 2:08 was the difference going in.
Something like that, yeah, and it's only going to be 30 seconds,
very
maybe?
small.
Now,
I would almost say that Ralen is almost arguably in the lead because those silvers are going to help a lot. Like, you know, and it's going to make some parts of the climb a little bit quicker. The mimics are going to be a little faster.
neither runner are able to stop that ice from being formed.
Yeah, I mean, with red mail, it's not really the end of the world. Even with
No.
as few hearts as we have here.
Whereas
I
chaotic
actually
is
missed
this
Nick's,
last phase look.
clear
It's
here.
chaotic as this last phase looks. It's pretty easy. Oh, and he even gets this very quick kill on them.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Nick exited the dungeon at 124.20 or so.
Well, we'll see here. The entry to GT. But yeah, it's looking
It's under a
30
minute
seconds
now.
maybe. Oh, definitely.
So
We have GT entrance at 125 flat.
yeah, and that's one of the things too that can really sort of hurt at the end of a race. On the one hand, you don't want to keep rushing and make big mistakes, but you know, if you play it a little bit too safe, you can end up getting bitten a little bit. You know,
So
if
first and
your
second
opponent's
chest,
holding it together.
absolutely nothing. We're not forgetting about the G-Key guessing game because this race was... Oh, it was 3. Because this race was done in the past, we're not going to be running one on purpose.
Yeah, so Nick goes here and does right side
It's
first,
that
as
second
does
key.
Ralen. So not a lot of difference here in routing, but there's still a whole climb of performance to make up, and with less than a minute between these two runners here, this could be... you've got to make sure you're performing here. They don't know where their opponent is, but
oh no, Ralen! No, it's on the torch. Oh,
yeah,
no!
that's
oh.
pretty. And again, you see that a lot. You go Hoprum. If there's no key, you go left. If there's a key, you go right. It's not too bad. It's not going to be a huge time loss. It's going to give away some of that time he saved in Turtle Rock.
Yeah,
but
let's just hope he doesn't go full right and just bails out at Compass Room.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like you say, you could say you hate to see it, but it's not a bad move. It's a lottery where that big key is. You can say all you like. Oh, if only I'd checked this first, but
yeah.
Well, you didn't. You check what you check.
You did. Oh, and such a slow death warp.
Yeah. You know, and you could also argue that knowing that you don't have the mirror, this is kind of the it would be better to do right into left because you can do it fast. But runners are so used to always having the mirror for GT.
Muscle memory is
they don't even think about
thing.
It. But yeah, I actually say with the absence of the mirror, full right is actually a bad call.
And there it is.
I mean, unless you commit and go full right.
And does he pick up? No, he doesn't. He still has one key, which is what's required.
He has the one key,
but
which is
Zero took the idea. He won't have to be fussing with those mini helmets, which can sometimes be a little bit trolly. I feel like it's definitely faster just to go left and pick up that key there and just bail out on the mini helmets and not have to worry about them at all. Not much of a time save, just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you have one key and you find the big key there, you go and grab that other one. It's not really any time at all. But I think Ralen also sort of makes a good choice to after going through to Compass Room and then finding it on the torch. It's like, okay, I gotta go. I don't need to.
Yeah, you're in panic mode at this point.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I'm gonna give Ralen the benefit of the doubt. Not necessarily panic, just execution mode. But that's maybe a little bit of panic there.
Because
not
at this
the worst
point,
spot to die, but not the best
location
spot to
that
die.
Hammer.
Yeah.
He last location that hammer, so there was really the only thing. He's got to be feeling behind and looking over and seeing that your opponent's not done yet. You've got to know they're in GT at this point. Because even if they did what you did in last location, a few things like they got to be neck and neck with you. It's so
they could
intense.
be clown routing. You never know when your opponent is clown routing. You always assume they're not, but
Yeah, but at this stage in the tournament, even clown routing just isn't gonna.
saving grace here. You know, Nick is opening these chests hoping to find silvers, because of course he is. And given that Ralen died in this room, and the fact that he has silvers, he actually saved a not insignificant amount of time on those 2 mimic rooms, because it's just 1 arrow each.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have to do those again, it's really great to be able to do it with the silvers. You know, again, I've said this earlier in the race, but I think mentality is so important, and being able to look for those silver linings is actually kind of an underrated skill, in my opinion. Just being able to keep your mentality up, not get in your own head, because that's when you make the really bad mistakes. Take an extra hit to a boss you never get hit by, you know. Fall to Ganon twice, you know. You want to be able to just wash stuff off especially at the end of a race. You want to be able to finish strong and just, you know, not.
Silvers were in Turtle Rock big chest, which Zero skipped. Ooh,
Nice.
I believe that was a triple. Nice.
I think it counted as a triple. That counted as
followed up by a
no
zero.
Single. Man, I love this boss so much. I say it every time I commentate, but it's such an interesting boss, just in terms of speed running potential.
There we go.
It's beautiful in its simplicity. It's all just angles, but
Right. Ooh, almost getting that zero cycle with the...
Yeah, messed up by the fireball a little bit, but better than I really ever do. I mistime those constantly. The lag makes that deceptively difficult to time properly.
Even without the lag, just just hitting the landmo with an arrow it's hard.
Yeah, but again, and
they make it look so easy.
Props to Ralen there, because again, you know, this is a really tough spot to be in this race, and being able to stick something like that and not screw it up, that's again that mentality that I was mentioning earlier. It says a lot to be able to do that, you know, and have it not be like, oh, that was a miracle that I pulled that off, you know. You have to be patting yourself on the back for that one. That's well done.
Oh no, Zero! You don't wanna fall to Ganon.
Exactly, and see that's
Oof.
no matter how far ahead you are, if you are not strong.
Oh no, Ralen giving us previews of what's about to come. Oh, no. Moldorm, stop being such a troll. Stop being a troll. Stop it. Oh my gosh. Come on. There we go.
All right, so Nick is on to the second phase, I think, here. Yeah, second phase
Yeah,
of his second Ganon fight. Ralen's caught up a little bit. Nick is getting low on magic. I don't know if he has
he used a lot of magic there, and I don't know if he has a pot.
Because he definitely refilled it earlier for his second fight.
I know he's used one. I don't know if he's used both of the ones he got.
That was a fantastic Agatu from Ralen.
That was very good. Indeed. Oh no.
That's
He does
he
have
has
his
one
the
more
second blue potion. Okay.
but he didn't set up the torch glitch, which
No.
means he will have to be a little slower on this second phase.
Silverless
He has to
without
be a
the
little
torch.
careful. Yeah,
Missed that one. I think he missed that one too. No, he might have hit it. It's hard to tell with.
Like you like to use the fire rod, but it's very expensive if that's your last bar of
Got
magic.
that one. 2.
Yeah, so now the danger here for Ralen is if he thinks he's too far behind,
3.
he can get a little too greedy. Silvers is
4.
still not free, especially if you're getting antsy.
Oh, this is a very close race. 5. Oh, missed that one.
In my experience, the biggest thing with the Silvers fight is wanting the doubles or the triples to
Okay.
just a little bit too much, and you put yourself in a bad spot and fall.
So it was at 7. I'm being corrected.
It's
8.
happened a lot to me, and
Oof.
and Ralen's not doing great on health right now, and I don't know if he went and got safety potions. I think Nick did before climbing up to TR, but
9?
I don't know if Ralen did.
I think that was 10. Oof.
Ralen's 3/4 of the way through phase 3.
13. Hey,
that's the last hit.
There we go. Get your GGs in chat as Zero has to walk across the 1x3 bridge to go in and touch that Triforce, and he wins.
And meanwhile, Ralen has 1 arrow left. 1 hit.
Oh. And Zero wins with an official time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 42 seconds. And then Ralen following very close behind with a 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 7 seconds.
I mean, regardless of how Ralen might feel about that, I still think that worst case scenario was still totally avoided there. If in that situation, given the head to head, honestly, if you're beating yourself up about messing up phases 1 and 2 of the final Ganon fight, I still take that for what it's worth. You know, I think that was stuck the ending. He stuck the landing there.
Oh yeah. Ralen in chat, do you want to come in for interviews? If you do, just hop in the voice chat. We'll bring you in and we can talk to you a little bit about the seed. Meanwhile, we are joined by Zero, considering he's been here the entire time. Hi, Zero. Uh-oh, his mic's not working. We'll get him in a second.
How about now? There it is.
Welcome. There we go. Hello.
Hello.
That was a very close race.
That's a nail biter.
Oh. All the way from the Aga early play that well, not early play, but the early Aghanim required. Oh, we're also joined by Ralen. Hi.
Hey. GG's again. Zero.
Yeah, GG.
Ooh. General thoughts on the seed from either of you two?
Hammers and ice palace suck.
No. That was a very, very trolly hammer location indeed. I think we lost Zero's mic again.
Yeah, but
He's been
yeah,
having
either
problems
way, I don't know. It's hard for me to fault any decision that was made. Honestly, it's you know everything is reasonable from a certain point of view, and it's again that race was so close. I can't imagine how it must have felt to be on one arrow and dot done from your opponent.
Thing about this was it was a combination of unfortunate decisions from the get-go, and then honestly I made so many small mistakes all over the seed, and execution was just not up there where I know it could be, so it felt for me very bad from start to finish. And then on top of those there were 2 or 3 decisions that were either very unlucky or just plain wrong. I
don't
said
think you
after
made any.
Grace-
I don't think you made any wrong decisions. It's not wrong to want Hammer.
I
going
would
into
say I
Thieves
think
Town?
the
Like-
biggest error would be not committing to the full clear the second time through. Well, I guess it wasn't really the second time, but going back to Thieves Town, it maybe would have been a better decision. But again, the biggest thing is with how close this race was. That makes it really hard to not pick apart all of those tiny little mistakes you can clean up, and that's gotta just feel the worst of all. Is now every little thing you did could have made the difference.
Yeah, with only 20 seconds and some change, it's easy to pick apart every small decision you made. 5 seconds here, time loss. 3 seconds there. They all add up, and it's hard. But none of those choices were necessarily the wrong ones.
I want to say that GT routing was just a bad decision at that time. Or I blanked on not having the mirror there for a second. But going right there in that position when you have to do that death warp, I feel is not really the right decision.
Yeah,
As
it's once you
most
make the
likely your
decision,
opponent
it's
won't
too
do that.
late. Yeah.
With that small key, I knew Ralen likes to go right with the small key, as a lot of people do. So I specifically went left, figuring I was way behind and needed a play, and luckily it was in my favor in that point.
I mean, yeah, you weren't necessarily behind at that point in the race, but it definitely did help.
It helped. If you hadn't done that, the fall might have mattered a lot more.
Yeah.
We'll say that.
Yeah.
I think the big
It
thing that
bought
I
you
noticed
time
in
to
my
be
routing,
bad.
right, going into Skull Woods, I went the front, knowing that like if I went the back, I was just gonna clear it out. And as soon as I got those mitts, I just bailed. So that was one definite benefit I had there, that Ralen did the entirety of Skull Woods.
Did you you didn't pick up that second item in Skull Woods, did you?
Nope. The mitts were the first things I checked and then bailed.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't have bailed upon finding mitts, because the last time I bailed on finding first item mitts in Skull Woods, the other item was mirror, and I needed it that time. But yeah, and finding the mitts there in the front is definitely was pretty good. I honestly really liked the play to go straight to the back, given that Fire Rod showed up where it did. That seemed like a smart decision, and it could have paid off big. It didn't, but it also didn't really cost that much in the long run.
It would have not costed much if Zero would have decided to at least search for the second item, but with the mids where they were and picking them up and bailing definitely being the right play in that case, it did cost clearly more than a minute, and that's just... If it does not work, it is just painful in this case. It's not usually I'm not keen on doing the pendant Skull Woods, even if I got the Fire Rod, but the way the items came today and not having normal Dark World access just yet, I didn't really want to risk leaving Mitz or Hammer behind on the Moth, and I felt even if this play does not work out, I maybe can make up lost time here if Zero does not do it, and yeah.
Yeah, it didn't pan out, but I liked the idea behind the play. I think it was definitely not a bad move, because everything sort of comes into focus when you look back on it. Okay, well, this was a mistake, this wasn't a mistake, but before it happens, it's all about what the thought process is, and I really think the thought process was good there.
Also, with the Tempered Sword and Plume, I was not really afraid of the Moth fight, so that definitely helped making that decision. With worse equipment, I would probably be less eager to do it, depending.
Yeah, I mean, even with it, that's sort of borderline for a lot of people. So it was a little dicey of a fight, but you stuck it. If the worst thing is going in and not sticking the Moth fight, because that's even worse. Especially since the item was the item on Moth? No, Moth had a...
No, there was
map.
nothing in the back. That was a completely waste of time. Could have cleared the front and had both items.
Yeah, see, I was just waiting for it to turn into a into a ped seed, and then oh boy, you're already one pendant up, but It can go any way. You got 145 checks done. So, I mean, I think that definitely speaks to a certain degree of the difference in how this went. With the race as close as it was, you got an extra 7 checks out of it. I mean, I guess you could argue that was right side GT rearing its head.
I also did the
Smith
back
chain.
of Skull Woods and the Smith chain.
Yeah, back of Skull Woods and Smith chain without mirror.
On top of everything, I did not check the top of GT where which Zero checked, so that gets some checks back in the.
Ralen also checked bonk rocks, which I actually did skip and forgot. I marked it on my tracker.
So you actually forgot it.
Yep.
You did just forget. Okay.
If there was anything, that would have been done. That would have been it, because I wasn't coming back to it.
I mean, with that, I think that puts the nail in the coffin. I think I will go on the record saying that Ralen deserved to win this race, and it is a crime that you did instead.
If I checked
about bonk rocks and casual boots.
It might have been a tie if I checked that. So it was a beneficial gamble, we'll call it.
I really think the most painful thing about this loss for Ralen is that the win here would have put you guys at a 1-1, and now it's all in that last race to start the reverse sweep coming back.
Well, this happened simultaneously with another race, which they did win. So the actual score is 2-1 right now. We're waiting on the next game.
So
yes,
the reverse sweep has begun.
There, we can mark that. Let me oop, there. Yay, marked.
So yeah, do we have anything else to say about this seed? We sort of saw it in its entirety, and we got the sort of rewatch perspective of both of our runners. So
even watching it back, I don't know how those fire bats launched me so far into the corner, but that made me very sad and very worried.
They're so trolly. I swear they double hit you when you get it. There you got like twice the knockback as normal.
Yeah, the knockback also on those I think works differently than any other knockback in the game. Which is why it catches you off guard so frequently.
And the tilt was real there, and then it compacted when I tried to do torch glitch and ran out of magic. I'm like, this is really bad now.
Yeah, that's and especially in a high stakes match, ladder's one thing. I've only ever competed in ladder. Ladder doesn't matter. But here in League, I can't imagine how it feels getting to the end of a seed like that, and your opponent still hasn't said they're done. Like, how?
Yeah, I knew really I had an execution and experience advantage going into this, so I was kind of telling myself little hurdles. Like, as I finished TR, I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I lose by Ganon and Ganon's tower, and then I was like, okay, this is actually getting kind of close, and then I fell, and then I was like, well, way to go, kiddo.
Yeah. So, what's next for you guys? When's the next matchup here?
I know Jaws and Ramon are facing off Thursday, I believe.
Yeah, Thursday at 12:10 p.m. I just pulled up the schedule for everyone. So yeah, their next match is going to be on Thursday.
In 16 hours, actually. From this point, actually.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be at work, so I won't be able to catch that one. But best of luck to both of you guys. I hope you guys can make it close and maybe bring it to a final match point for both of you guys. Have one more,
I mean, I certainly hope so.
Yeah, we won 5 games last year.
They also have the 5th game pending already scheduled, it looks like, just in case it's needed.
That would be happening on Saturday, if that were to be the case.
Yep. Other than that, we have OK Game versus Black Lotus also tomorrow at 2:10 p.m. And then a little bit later in the day at 6:10 p.m. we have 16-Bit Nerds versus Front's Time. So that is all we really have on the schedule for this week of the Open League. On the Invitational side, we do have January 7th at 4:10. We have the 2019's Titan Myths of 2019 versus Air 216. And then Friday at 10:10, Shack Tools Digging Game versus WJPDTB. That is a lot of letters. Make sure to check them all out. Once again, I'm going to remind everyone to give these runners a follow. They've done an amazing job putting on the show for you guys, and it was a very good race.
Yeah, GG's, and best of luck in the rest of the series.
Same to you.
And with that, I am done. If you have any other final comments, Asmar, go ahead and lay them out. I am out.
I think that's just about it. I think we've said it, and we'll see you all next time.